Hi, this is Patricia Stepler with Your Inside Power, where we strive to help you find the magic inside of you so that you can live the life of your dreams and be the magic in your dreams. Today, our topic is about how to act and think in a certain way so that you can acquire the dreams that you really want in life. And so that's going to be our main topic for this discussion and probably next week also. So I want you to realize that most people think that they're living in a universe where there's a lot of lack and limitation and that they're not enough. I remember being to a workshop not too many years ago, actually a couple different workshops, where the predominant feeling was that we weren't enough, that we weren't doing enough, we weren't good enough, we didn't, whatever it wasn't enough. And that's a lack and limitation feeling about ourselves, not just about the world around us. But the universe is in a very orderly way. And because it's in such an orderly way, you have to realize that we have to be in harmony with what's going on. And the universe has a higher power. If you don't realize that higher power, this is probably not the episodes that you want to be watching. Because to believe that you can have anything you want and to believe the things that I'm going to be sharing with you is you have to believe in a higher power, whether you call that God, whether you call it Allah, whether you call it infinite intelligence, source energy, whatever there is, you have to believe that there's something out there more powerful than you. And you just didn't appear here. So with that in mind, the universe is infinite and it's abundant. And what's abundant in our sight is only part of what abundance could come into your life. The other thing you have to believe is that the good that you want is also looking for you. So as you move towards your goal actually will start to move towards you. And that's always out there. And you have this power inside of you that you can release to the world and draw into your life the things that you really want. So you have to realize that there are infinite opportunities in front of you. Every day, infinite opportunities come into my inbox. So there's lots of opportunity out there. And you have unlimited capacity inside of you to accomplish the things that you really want. Problem is, so often, not only do we have limitations in our beliefs of what we can accomplish, we have limitations in what we believe we can acquire, but we also have limitations in our capacity to do things. We have to realize that we have more talent and more ability inside of us than we even realize. If you've ever had this instance, I know for most of my adult life, I was teaching school. And I could not understand because back when I started, most of the teachers were quite a bit older than I was. And that was just because they weren't hiring a lot of teachers. So to even find a teaching job at that time was difficult. And when you did, you had to realize that you were probably one of the very few teachers that were new in the building. So I could not understand how many of the administrators I had early on in my career, I'm talking about the first 1 to 10 years of my career, always elevated me to leadership positions. And what I couldn't understand was, why are you elevating me? Because I'm one of the youngest people here. You see, I saw this limitation. You could only be in a leadership position if you were certain experience or certain number of years in your age. What I didn't realize is that most of these administrators were seeing something in me I did not see myself. I did not see myself at that time as a leader. So when they would elevate me into a position of leadership, I couldn't understand it. And it took me probably 8 years before I started to realize that they saw something in me I did not see in myself. And that was only because of a mentor that I had. And that mentor, that was my administrator at the time, he tried to mold me into being a leader that he could see I had the capacity to do. You see, I didn't think I had that talent. My parents were both leaders in their occupations and in the community. I just never saw myself there. I want you to realize that you have more talent and ability inside of you than you can even imagine. And when you start moving forward towards your dream, you're going to start to see new talents and abilities emerge from within. So there's infinite power within you at all time. And this, you have to realize that you are a very special person, and that your DNA, your spiritual DNA, is perfect. And when you can understand that you have this perfection inside of you, you can soar to all kinds of heights. So I'm referencing today Wallace D. Wattles in the book, The Science of Getting Rich. It's one of my very favorite books, and it's one that I read every year, just because I just feel that every time I read it, and I really don't read it, I study it, but as I go through it, I learn something new all the time. So Wallace D. Wallace says that you're not kept poor because opportunities have been taken away from you. You need to work in harmony with the law. You see, there are laws of this universe that govern everything. And when you follow those laws, when you're working in harmony with those laws, you can accomplish so much more. And when you're not in harmony with those laws, that's when things go haywire. In different times, you move in different directions. What you need to do is to learn to go with the flow instead of trying to move against the flow. So go with the tide instead of trying to swim against it, as he says. You start to move with the laws instead of trying to fight them, because here's the thing, you cannot alter or change any of these natural laws of the universe. They work the same for everybody, and ignorance of knowing them doesn't excuse you or change whether they're going to work for or against you. So we have to understand that when we follow these laws and when we're in harmony with these laws and we do things in a certain way and we think in a certain way, then we can start to create the kind of life that we really want. So no one is kept in lack and limitation thought process, because there's more than enough for everybody. We don't have to think about that lack and limitation. Now, when you can finally believe this, and you can finally get to the point where you have a fundamental understanding of this, you don't ever have to worry or doubt. You know it's going to happen. So everything that you can see around you is practically inexhaustible. And what you can't see is inexhaustible. So if you need something, it will be formed for you when you think and act in a certain way. Now, that might seem difficult to understand, and that might seem difficult to believe, and you might think I'm a bit crazy. And I would have too at one time. But if you hear the story of my son, you will know that he manifested a full college scholarship. And when he did that, I knew it caused it to happen. I did not know how. But I also started to look back at times in my life when I manifested a goal and realized that I had followed the exact laws of the universe that I'm talking about. I thought and acted in a certain way, and I reached my goal. And when I did not act in a certain way, I did not reach my goal. So there was a time I was selling cosmetics, and the organization was a multi-level organization, and the head of the organization was offering a contest. And so this particular contest, I mean, she did this maybe twice a year, but this particular contest was to win one of 3 diamond rings. And I looked at those rings and I pictured them on my finger. You see, that was one of the things that you need to do. You need to think of those, whatever it is you want, as already having it. So I would just daily picture one of those rings on my finger. And I would put each one on my finger. I didn't just choose one, which is probably my biggest mistake, but I chose to picture each one. I got them so engraved into my head. Well, anyway, so up until that point, I'd never had great sales. And when I would do cosmetic parties, I'd always talk about the skincare because, first of all, that's where you made your most money, and it's vitally important if you want to look younger longer. But I would push the skincare and the benefits of the skincare and why you want to use the skincare and so on and so forth. And most people wouldn't buy it. They wanted to buy the colors. They wanted to buy the fun part. It's like, buying your clothing that people will see instead of buying your undergarments that people won't see, which you're going to spend the most money on. So anyway, as this contest started up and I pictured these rings, I kept thinking, well, what can I do differently so that I can make sure that I win one of those rings? And as I was going through all that, ideas came to me. See, that's what happens when you get an idea in your head and you picture it. And I pictured those rings and I remember, how am I going to acquire it? I didn't know how. But here's the funny thing. So I did a few cosmetic parties, had some great sales, much higher than ever before. I called former clients that I'd had. Almost everybody bought multiple items. That had never, ever happened to me. What's the difference? Well, because I had this goal that was on a higher frequency than where I was living on that higher frequency. I was believing I could acquire that. And I was believing that I would win the contest. Well, I really wanted to come in second because that was my favorite ring. So I really wanted to come in second. As I was going through that process, you see, I had shifted my vibration. Well, when you shift your vibration, you see, everything's on a frequency. Everything is energy, and we live on a frequency. And when you shift to a higher frequency, then you start to attract those things that are on that higher frequency. If that doesn't make sense to you, what you need to do is to reach out to me so that we can have that discussion as to how you move to that higher frequency. So as I was on that higher frequency, ideas were coming to me. And as I had these cosmetic parties, you see, I was on a different level. So now I was attracting different things into my life. So as it was a, attraction item. And sure enough, at the end, and you see, I even picture myself walking on stage, getting this ring, the applause of the crowd, everything. And that's what happened. I won the contest. Now I wanted the second place ring, but I got the first place ring. It's okay. It's good. It was worth more money. It's the one she wanted to give the first place winner, and that's good. But here's the interesting thing. You see, I didn't know all this information back then. My goal was to win the ring. As soon as I won the ring, I didn't have a goal to continue that business and to keep growing and expanding it at that same rate. So my sales dropped off. Just like my son, he had the goal to get the scholarship. Once he got the scholarship, the goal was never to go beyond to be this great baseball player in college. The goal was the scholarship. So he got the goal, and I knew immediately he wasn't going to probably finish playing collegiate baseball because he didn't set another goal. And sure enough, after 2 years, he decided not to play, but the scholarship was still intact because that was the important thing, because it wasn't an athletic scholarship. So you have to realize that once you reach that goal, set another one and set another one and set another one and get onto that higher vibration. When we believe that the supply that we have here is inexhaustible and the invisible supply is really inexhaustible, we start to think differently and we shift our thinking. So everything that you see all came from an original substance. Everything we have started from one substance, and it's a formless substance. So Wallace D. Wallace says the universe is made out of it, but it is not all used in making the universe. The spaces in, through, and between the forms of visible universe are permeated and filled with an original substances. This is a formless stuff with the raw material of all things. This formless stuff responds to the needs of humans. It will not let them be without any good thing. Listen to that again. So there's this formless substance out there, and it's every place equally at all times. And when you put an idea into this substance, it wants to give you what it is that you want. Now, here's the important sense. The formless stuff responds to the needs of humans. It will not let them be without any good. It will not let them be without any good. So the good that you desire is already there. It's waiting for you. What happens is we have this idea, we have this desire, but then we start to wander and doubt and worry and think it can't happen. And we have all these limiting beliefs and lack come into our lives, and therefore we don't get it, but it's still there. So he goes on to say, if individuals are poor, it is because they do not follow a certain way of doing things, which makes the individual person rich. Sometimes we feel like people are lucky that they've gotten something that we can't get, and they're just really lucky. That's not true. Truth of the matter is, you can have anything you really want. You can have anything you really want. You just have to want it badly enough that you're going to think in a certain way and you're going to do things in a certain way. So it's not like some person just gets chosen. You're under the lucky star today, and you're going to be the one that's going to be successful, and you're the one that's going to, get that job you want, or you're going to be the one that's going to have the great business, or you're going to be the one that has the great wealth. No, it's because they're doing things in a certain way. So once you can realize it's a matter of doing things in a certain way and thinking in a certain way, then you can realize that you can have it too. If you go back and you really study people that are very famous, either historical figures or people today, and you go back and you start studying their stories and you find out the truth, because they're not all going to tell you exactly what happened. But when you find one that will tell you exactly how they did it and the things that they did and the hard things that they went through, you will see they did things in a certain way, either accidentally or they had knowledge. Those that do things accidentally rarely can repeat it. No, they might once or twice, but they can't repeat it over and over again. When you understand the process and you understand how to think and act in a certain way, then you can do it like magic. So you have to realize that this formless substance, it's intelligent. It is a material that absolutely thinks. So this formless substance that's all around us at all times, every place, permeates everything, is a substance that thinks, and it's alive, and it's always will move you towards more life. It wants you to have more life. It wants you to have more than you have today. And its natural impulse is to seek for more life. That's what we want. You see, as human beings, there's nothing wrong with wanting more. Sometimes people think you should be grateful for what you have. And maybe you heard that at some point in your life. I know I did. Be grateful for what you have and quit asking for more. No, that's what we're supposed to be doing. That's our nature, is to seek more life, to have more. And when this intelligence aligns itself, when we align ourselves with this formless substance, we have no idea how far we can go. So everything we have is for advancement of life. Nature wants advancement of life. Nature doesn't just have an apple tree with one apple on it each year. It has an apple tree with bushels of apples and hundreds of seeds that you can plant new apple trees and grow more. You don't see one blade of grass in a yard. You see thousands, probably millions of blades of grass. It's an abundance. Of course, sometimes the same thing comes with weeds too, doesn't it? You never get just one weed, you get abundance of weeds. What you have to realize is that when you think and act in a certain way, anything that you really want is available to you. Now, why do I keep saying what you really want? That's very important, because when you really want something, when you have to have it, that's when it starts to come to you. When it's just a mere idea, it doesn't become that important. But when it's something that you have got to have, then our minds start to open up. We start to think about it all the time, just like I did with those diamond rings. I saw myself every day wearing one of those rings. I could tell you today, I could show you the design of them today. They were so embedded in my mind. I thought about winning and walking across the stage, which was not something I was particularly comfortable doing, but I saw myself doing it. And lo and behold, I did it. See, our minds control us. We have habitual thought process that are controlling everything that we do. And because of that, that's what keeps us limited with where we are. So anytime that we think about the person that we want to be, how we want to operate in our lives, we first have to create in our own mind. You see, we have to think it. That's why we use some of the intellectual faculties I've talked about in previous episodes. We have to imagine, well, what is it that I really want? What is it what kind of person do I want to be? And we create that in our minds. And when we create that in our minds and we keep thinking about it over and over again, that's when we start to become that person, and we start to attract those things to us. So some people aren't going to be able to understand this because they're not ready to hear it. Quite honestly, 8-10 years ago, I wasn't ready to hear this information. And if somebody would have started talking about it, and they probably did, I probably thought they are the craziest person I've ever heard speak. There's no way that kind of stuff works. There's no way there's this formless substance out there and it's waiting for us to put an idea into it and attract it into lives. I'd have thought they were crazy. But once I learned this, you see, that's when I learned what my son had done. That's when I figured out what I had done to get that diamond ring. And when I look back, it's exactly what I did. I thought in a certain way and I acted in a certain way. Instead of doubting whether I could do something, I believed I could. That's what my son did. He never gave up on the idea, even though I could tell you all kinds of things that went wrong for him. But from the time he was 12 to the time he was 18, he never gave up on the idea that he was getting a scholarship to college. You see, inside of us, our spirit, we live in 3 planes. We have a physical body, we have an intellect, and we have a spirit. It's our spirit that's there for growth and expression. It wants us to have more, to be more, to do more. That's what it's there for. Our intellect is how we tap into that spiritual growth. We think thoughts and we tap into that higher power. What we have to realize is that our thought patterns, our habitual thought patterns, or our paradigms, that's what we filled our information. So we get this idea, you can win a diamond ring. And it hits that paradigm that says, how do you think you're ever going to do that? Who do you think you are? You have never made sales like that. That's going to win. You're competing against over 1,000 women. What makes you think you can be one of the top 3 winners and get that diamond ring? What makes you think you can get a baseball scholarship to college? You know how unlikely that is. Most people who play in high school never go on to play college ball. What makes you think you're so special that you can do that? You see, that's what goes through our minds. But when we build a paradigm that says, yeah, I can do that. I can do that. Absolutely. Then that's when you start to act and think in a certain way. You no longer become a victim. You no longer say things like, I don't deserve it. I'm not good enough. You shift that to, I am good enough. I can do anything I really want. And you start to write out and write a description of what that looks like. Because you see, at that point, you need to realize you can do anything that you really want. What I want you to realize is that when you do any type of personal growth, whether it's a program that I have or a program that somebody else has, I'm sure there's lots of different programs here on the Win-Win Women University and Win-Win Women site. But if there's not a spiritual component, it's not complete, because you are living simultaneously on these three planes: physical, intellectual, and spiritual. So if you're missing one of those components, it's not complete. And the spiritual is the most important. Why is it most important? Because it's the highest level. It's the highest level. The physical is the lowest level. Our physical body is the lowest level of awareness. Intellect keeps going up. But when you get to the spiritual, see, we're made to connect with that higher source energy. And so we have to have a personal growth program that is spiritual also, or it's not complete. And see, the only thing that you lack is the awareness of all this. And that's why people aren't ready for it. If they're not aware, if they haven't gotten to that level of awareness, that there's something bigger out there, something that you can tap into to unleash your own inside powers, then you're probably not ready for it yet. One of the ways that you can tell this is how competitive people are. You see, we live in a creative plane. We should not be on a competitive plane. We shouldn't be competing with other people. What we need to do is to look how we can create and to do more and to be more, so that we can start to attract into our lives the things that we really want. So there are these different laws of the universe, and I would suggest you reach out to me and I can share with you some of the laws that we work with. But of course, the law of attraction is the one that gets all the attention. The law of attraction is all actually part of the law of vibration. See, everything is moving, everything is vibrating at a different level of frequency. And it's a matter of tapping into that frequency. And when you can tap into that frequency, then you can start to attract into your life the things that you want. From time to time, I do different events and I keep them updated on my website. So I would suggest that you go to yourdreampower.com and look at the events. Because sometimes I do things about making money. Sometimes I have one-day events, sometimes 3-day events. Maybe I'm speaking someplace and have a summit that you gain information from. But check that out, because there's ways for you to learn more. And as I said, it's the awareness that you really need. The only thing that we really lack is awareness. And once we start to realize that we do live on these frequencies, then we can start to tap into that formless substance and really put it to our use and draw it into our inside power, so that we can create the life that we truly want and live our dreams. And as I usually say, be the magic in our dreams. So again, I suggest you go and check out my website, www.yourdreampower.com, and be the magic in your dreams.